I guess I'll take that as a yes. So this presentation is about gap analysis, which is a useful tool to process improvement and understanding how do we make business change or business transformation process, and whether it be a small change or a large change that affects the business itself. So in this presentation, we'll go over three key aspects. So understanding what is a gap analysis, what is the process involved in carrying out this tool, and how do we define the as is and to be state, which we'll get to know what those two things are. So what is gap analysis? Gap analysis is basically the process in which helps organization to determine how to achieve their business goals through it comparing the current state of processes and technology to the ideal state that they want to move into or have a conception of. And during this process, it enables them to highlight the shortcomings, opportunities for improvement in that case. So there are kind of four key things that happens as a result of doing this gap analysis. You're able to identify and reveal inefficient processes that does not meet the current business standard needs or their future needs, or whether they require the needs of their customers as well. And allows for strategic decision making. So carrying out gap analysis allows for informed decision makers from stakeholders to understand what is the change project involved, what's the value that it can deliver by investing into it. It enhances efficiency, so it establishes clear, actionable steps to take in place to reach the current state to our future state in the process, and allows for optimized resource allocation. So it allows us to understand what the risks are involved, what opportunities, and how do we mitigate these risks by making sure that we invest into the right things to enable this change to happen successfully. So in this diagram, it kind of breaks down a higher level overview of what is the gap analysis process in of itself. And it revolves around four key things. One is the as is, which is the current existing situation that you're in. So what are the current processes you're using? What is technology you're using? We need to understand what that is first, to understand our problems, the root causes, and where it needs improvement. The next aspect is our desired state. What's the target state that we want to get into, which is the to be state. Once we have the as is, we then can move into what do we want our end product or service to look like, and how do we make that change, which moves into the gap analysis. As the name suggests, what is the gap between the as is and to be that needs to be filled in order to make that transition, that business change. So this is where we compare both the states, the as is and to be states, identify the gaps, what are the opportunities, the risks, and overall, what's the value we get out of this change. And from that, we'll have multiple solutions that are in place, which we can look into. And then that kind of wraps itself into a business case that is put forward to people to be able to approve it or disapprove it. An important note is that there's no standard process for a gap analysis. This is just a standard framework to use. You have to tailor your approach depending on the stakeholders involved and the wider business needs. So as I mentioned before about what could the to-be state or the solution look like, it can take generally two approaches. One is improving the current system itself, so keeping the current process that existed and improving them on top of it. Another aspect you may realize to say, okay, let's remove our current process and reinvent something else in place as it doesn't fit our current needs. And you can either go for this re-engineering process. But overall, when conducting your gap analysis, you have a series of options that needs to be considered. And quite interestingly, you can see onto our diagram here, the option of do nothing, because in some cases, whoever approves this business case may opt for saying, okay, let's do nothing, because it's not our priority at the moment, and our current state fulfills our customers' needs at the moment in time, and we can figure out something to do with that later. So when considering a gap analysis and looking at our current processes, what we need to understand is what's the current system like? And that involves looking into what a product or service is and breaking it down to different areas such as technology, people, processes. What all these things are turn the gears of how the overall product service works in itself. And a useful tool to use is this framework called a POPIT model, which stands for people, organization, processes, and IT. This allows us to understand the impact of the change that we're proposing to make and how it affects certain places. So depending on how wide the change is, it can affect the organizational structure, it can affect individuals, it can affect teams, departments, or cross-department functions. Another thing is people. How will it affect the current people when we make this change? Do we need to upskill people? Do we need to develop our staff? How will it affect their performance when currently in the process of this change and after it? Who do we need to recruit when we implement these business change? Do we need to recruit people who are experts in these certain fields to be able to manage that change and be able to maintain it? From a process perspective, just because we're improving a certain process within the business doesn't mean that it might have direct or indirect impacts across other business processes that it's related to. And from an IT perspective, we need to understand what are our current infrastructure requirements, what are current system designs, data modeling, all sort of things we need to take into consideration for the technical requirements involved in this change project. A helpful tool that helps you with it is a SWOT analysis, which I recommend is like a guiding tool that takes you from looking at your as is, your various to be's, so all options you have to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each of them, and understand the opportunities and threats associated with them. And certain tools you can use which can help you with that is looking at this kind of framework here, is understanding with our current state, we have a certain things we need to look into, such as what our business needs, understand the organizational structure, what's our system performance and capabilities like, what's our infrastructure like, what's the whole business architecture like. And within that case, we kind of move into certain stages we need to look at for the current state. What's our problems? What are the root causes of those problems? What opportunities do we take out from that by solving them? What's the risk involved by being able to solve those problems? And then what's the solution? What the solution take form as? Because whatever the solution takes form, that shows what the value we have for it. And that takes us to our desired state, which is the solution and value involved. So certain tools that can be helpful is a risk management chart, be able to categorize your risks, understand the impact, so probability and impact level, and who's responsible to manage those risks. That can help really get stakeholders to be on board with you if you have a robust risk management process involved. A financial impact analysis, that will be useful to have within your gap analysis because your stakeholders involved, they want to know, okay, when's our break-even point? When do we get our return on investment? What are the costs involved? Because then that will inform them how much investment they need to put forward to us and whether it's worth it or not, depending on what their return on investment is and the benefits involved. Also, we mentioned before within the Poppet model, cultural organization and readiness to accept the change. Depending on your cultural organization, you can make the change happen. So you can improve the processes, introduce new technology, but it becomes obsolete if your current workforce doesn't want to use it, because that makes it a failed project if they don't want to use it. So you need to understand, how do we break it down? How do we get people who are resistant to change to accept the change that's going to happen? I'll take you for a short example for maybe a small process such as sales and orders. How do you might optimize it? We'll look at an as is and to be example. So in our as is process, they have a series of problems that they're having. So within the sales and order process, they're losing a large amount of stocks each year, resulting in large amounts of money that have been lost. There's long order times that take over a week. Customers' orders are often mismanaged and lost, or they have the wrong items packaged with them. There's high customer dissatisfaction with the lack of order tracking that they have. What the root causes that we can look into is inefficient processes. So then many of the processes are handled manually, which increase the risk of human error and slower rate of production. And that there's a lack of robust monitoring and real-time tracking solution of inventory and sales and shipping. And here's a quick example of what might it look like. So a customer will place an order, they'll go down to the sales section, the sales team will receive the order, enter it manually, verify it, then they'll check the inventory, and if it's in stock, they'll approve the order, and then the warehouse goes through a series of manual steps to fulfill the order, package it, and ship it. And eventually we'll get to the customer itself and they receive the order. There's a lot of manual steps involved. which leads to our problems that we looked at earlier, which says human error that's occurred. So now what would be the to-be state? What would it look like if we improve these different function areas? So what the solution would be to streamline and automate the sales and order processes. So we'd want to implement an order management system to track and manage the process orders from customers, from order to shipping. Introduce warehouse automation, implement automated storage and retrieval systems, have robots to cover inventory and warehouse related tasks such as retrieval, packaging, and shipping. What is the value that we get out of this solution? So we get accurate manage of stock levels, inventory management, reduce the level of stock loss and overstocking, which saves the business money over time. Customer orders are processed much faster and delivered within 2 to 5 business days rather than taking over a week. So that increases customer satisfaction and also allows us to create a rate of production, be able to process more orders out. The customers are able to track the system, track the order status of where the packaging, when it's coming, whether it is being delivered on time or not. Overall, the return on investment, they're able to reduce the number of full-time workers they have as a result of using these automated processes. And what they can shift to is a seasonal hiring basis model, where they'll hire workers during peak business seasons. So overall, it allows them more flexibility and saves them money in the long run. And overall customer satisfaction, be able to communicate them more clearly and transparently about different areas of when the delivery is going through. So what this might look like, for example, is a customer will place an order on online portal. They have an automated checking system that checks the inventory and it'll look at whether we have it available in stock. If it doesn't have in stock, an automated message will go out to the customer saying that we don't have in stock, cancel the order, and they'll get a refund. On the happy path, if they do have in stock, it'll go through automated order verification, it'll get approved, and then get digitally sent to the warehouse upon receiving it. The robots will pick it up, they'll pick the order, package it, and then place it into the right shipping area and coordinates. And from there, the customer will receive a notification saying that the order has been packaged and shipped, and it'll be with them in X amount of time. So it allows them to monitor the delivery status, and the customer receives the order. So what are the opportunities and gaps that we have looked at? Opportunities to allow them to redesign and re-engineer the ordering and sales process to streamline activities, introduce a new order management system, automation tools to reduce manual handling, introduce new robust technologies such as robotics, Internet of Things to mechanize our warehouse processes, scale operations to be able to distribute and ship things more quickly and a lot wider scale. And overall, the digitalization automation of these processes allows for us to conduct data and have data analysis and do business intelligent activities to gather insights on customer preferences, what items they like to order, and helps feed into the marketing of what products or sales they need to push forward for more. So with this gap analysis, we looked at a lot of the positives involved in this, but also need to look at the risks, why they may not want to implement this. For example, implementation of this and integration of new technology without the proper IT infrastructure in place and support and expertise. So you need to hire talent, the right talent involved to be able to maintain and develop these new systems, and that can cost them a lot of money so that you're requiring high talent, high acquisition. So that means you need to hire people with a high maintenance cost. Another aspect is developing and purchasing the software and tools and robots to maintain and develop the system. And another is resisting the change. So stakeholders may not be pleased with this process. So such stakeholders can be people with different departments within the sales and order, such as people in warehouse, people in a sales team who feel that their jobs might be threatened by it and may not want to go along with this change itself. So in summary, what we kind of looked at very, very quickly is gap analysis is a strategic tool that helps us compare the current state to our desired state and identify the gaps and process involved and the capabilities to be able to make that change and be able to identify the discrepancies between where our organization is and where it wants to be and what actionable steps are involved and understand what risks are involved and whether the value that is perceived from it really worth the risks involved and be able to make this change happen. And we kind of looked at some of the tools and techniques that can be used to help you look at the current state and define the future state, such as business process modeling, risk management, charts, cost benefit analysis, and interviews and stakeholders. But that kind of concludes a very quick and brief idea of what gap analysis is. If you do have any questions, do let me know.
Thank you so much, FAEZ. Please, can you ask questions if you're trying to? There are no questions in the slide. So that way, to encourage people to ask questions. Okay, so the silence means you do not have questions to ask us fast. Do you have questions for us?
Not quite. I mean, if anyone's interested in learning more about gap analysis and how to implement it, feel free to reach out to me and I can share some resources. Or if you have any sort of projects that you have yourself that you're working on that may involve a gap analysis, then I can probably help you assist in how we can go through that process itself and how you might be able to carry that out.
Okay, so I guess I have a question. You've told us that gap analysis is a strategic tool used to compare the current state with the desired future state, all right, to identify gaps in performance. My question now is, are there alternatives to gap analysis? Are there other alternatives, or it's the only strategic tool available?
There are different ways to go about this. Quite typically of business change models, they do have one is called a ADKAR, which is a framework which goes into, if I remember correctly, ADKAR's alignment, design, ADK. I kind of forgot, but I can share some other resources on those. But gap analysis is more of a loose standard framework, I would say. You can go about in different ways. It has a lot of flexibility involved, but it's just a good tool to use in terms of being able to kind of visualize whatever changes you make are there's value involved in those changes. But yeah, I guess I'll end it here and let let the next person take over to conduct their. Oh, just a heads up, Justin, I don't think we can hear you too well.
Said I need permission to share my screen. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Please. I'm disabled from sharing my screen this moment.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Oh. Good morning, everyone. I believe we can all see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Right, thank you. Today, I've chosen the topic which is how to become a better software developer. That's our topic for today. Let's take a look at some of the things we've put in. Here, we're figuring out the goals, our end goals, selecting programming language. It's one of the things we'll be talking about, the best supporting programming language to what we wish to achieve. For some reason, before I proceed, I can't display my video because I'm clicking it and then it says the video just failed to start. I don't know why. It said I should select another video camera settings. Okay. I don't know why so, but let me see.